Cape Girardeau is filled with history, and we have been highlighting that as we get closer to our country's 250th birthday.
Tonight you will meet George. He is compact, he's over 160 years old, and is a literal blast from the past.
Gun number 1 is ready. Cannoneers prepare. Fire!
Fort D in Cape Girardeau can transport you back in time. A time of the North and the South, a time of a war-torn country, and a time when the roar of cannon fire echoed down to the Mississippi below.
Fire!
We don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past, no matter how hard we keep trying to do so. But the Civil War was a terrible time. People in Missouri were torn apart. It's important for people today to appreciate the sacrifices of the men and women who served in the Civil War, and what we just try to do is bring it back to life.
Scott House is a part of the Friends of Fort D historic site, and in addition to dressing the part, members are caretakers of Fort D in Cape Girardeau and of George the Cannon.
He's an original. He is an original veteran of the Civil War. You know, and people say, well, how can a veteran be an inanimate object? And so, well, the Battleship Missouri is a veteran of the World War II. So George is a veteran of the Civil War. He represents the sacrifice to us of the enrolled Missouri militia from Cape Girardeau.
George was built in 1861 and is a smaller sized cannon that can be moved by cavalry units. He was used at the Battle of Pilot Knob and was brought back to Cape Girardeau by men serving under Colonel George Tillenius, which is how George got his name.
By the end of the war, he became colonel of the enrolled Missouri militia, and after the war, he was elected mayor of Cape Girardeau. And that's pretty cool because it's like a German immigrant. You know, 10 years later, he's mayor of Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and that's really awesome.
George was at Fort D for years until one day he just disappeared. Missing for decades until he was found in a ditch in Cape Girardeau in the early 70s and restored back to his original glory by Scott and the other members of Friends of Fort D in 2024.
Fire!
He's here. He had exploits. We know where he was. Most of the cannons that are left from the Civil War, we don't know where they served particularly, but we know who George was in possession of. We know where he served, and then he came to Cape Girardeau. So it's really cool. Just, you know, every time we walk into this place, we go over and pat him and say, "Hi, George."
And you can say hi, George, yourself at Fort D when Scott and the rest of the Friends of Fort D hold events like on Memorial Day.